Yo, what's happening, guys? Um, this is gonna be a interesting episode. First of all, I just want to start with I'm sick. So I stayed home from work today because I've got this like throat and ear infection. So if I sound a bit off, that's probably why. But I do have some honey and lemon tea, and I'm having it in my my Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man mug that I've had for quite some time. If you're watching on this camera, I've got the TikTok live going. If you're watching on TikTok live, I've got the webcam going. But this should give away exactly what we're talking about today, and that is Spider-Man. So Spider-Man Brand New Day just came out. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but one of the best films I believe in the entire MCU. One of the best films that I've personally ever seen, and maybe I'm biased because Spider-Man is, one of my all-time favorite heroes or whatever. But again, I'm not going to spoil it. I've said to people like, go watch it if if you're interested in watching it. I think it's well worth the ticket, and I think that the records that is currently breaking, or where it ranks in terms of all-time box office and everything like that, goes to show just how good it is. But anyway, that's how I feel about it. But what I wanted to do today was actually rank all the live-action Spider-Man movies since I got some free time. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I've got a tier list. I'll show you guys on TikTok as well. Oh, damn! I'm just hiding my own my own thing. Anyway, see what we can do. Flip the camera. Yep, so you can see there I've got this tier list, and I'll tell you guys exactly what movies we're going through. So of course we got Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi's trilogy, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. In order, we've got The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, what's going on there? We've got Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Nowhere Home, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man Brand New Day, right? Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. Give me a second to fix this camera. As you can tell, I'm super organized, but yeah. Just put that down. Cool, so that's what I'm doing right now. TikTok, for those of you who don't know, I've got a brand new YouTube channel. It's called Geekin Out, Geekinout. There's a couple other channels called Geekin Out, but you know what? I've been wanting to make a channel called Geekin Out for quite some time, so that's my channel as far as I'm concerned. So if you want to subscribe to my channel, go on YouTube, look it up. It's where I talk about everything pop culture, everything nerdy, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's what we're doing on there. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So starting off with Spider-Man 1. Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi in the director's chair. Classic. Willem Dafoe playing the Green Goblin. That's the Spider-Man that I grew up on. Now that's it's probably the first superhero movie I ever watched, I think. Or at least I was allowed to watch. Obviously, Blade predates it. I'm not sure if X-Men came out before or after Spider-Man, but for me, and let me just fix this up. I didn't even, hold on a second. Give me a second here. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna put this somewhere around A tier. Now I know that's gonna be pretty I know that might be a little bit controversial to some, but I'm trying to reserve S tier for the truly outstanding movies. Yeah, so that's just where my mind's at. So I'm gonna put Tobey Maguire's first Spider-Man outing at A tier. I think Willem Dafoe is great as the Green Goblin. I feel like seeing Tobey Maguire as an awkward teenager. You know, it's such a classic movie in my opinion. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at A tier for now. Spider-Man 2, classic. This for me sits in the S tier. All right, it's one of the best comic book movies of all time. Right. And look, I'm just figuring out now. This list might be subject to change as we go through and I start comparing them to other ones. But you know, Spider-Man 2 did such a good job at characterizing Peter Parker. You know, really grappling with the fact that, you know, he can't really have a normal life. It's a struggle for him. You know, Peter Parker loses where Spider-Man wins. It's really the first time you get to see him struggling with that dichotomy, right? So for me, that's S tier. It's one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, one of the greatest Spider-Man movies of all time. And you know, for my childhood, you know, it's that is my childhood. Spider-Man 2 right there. So Spider-Man 3, now this is where it gets interesting because this was not very received. I received very well. Me personally, I feel like the only thing I didn't really like about it was Venom, and how they did Venom. You know, like Topher Grace. No knock against Topher Grace. Like I liked that '70s show. I thought it was cool. But Topher Grace as Eddie Brock, you know, for me, Eddie Brock was this big, you know, kind of a jock sort of character who, you know, is disgraced in the comics, but, you know, becomes Venom, and Venom's meant to be an intimidating presence. But in this one, Venom ends up kind of just being a little bit the same sort of size as Spider-Man, so I thought that was a little bit weird. I did like how it continued the Harry Osborn story, the Green Goblin arc, and, you know, there was that through line throughout the trilogy of this being a rival. I think the characterization of Sandman, you know, Flint Marko being a sad father, you know, with a daughter who's going through something, I thought that was really well done, but ultimately they just packed in way too much. And I feel it just didn't stick the landing, sir. I know Avi Arad, executive producer, he's a big someone to blame for that because he insisted that they include Venom. So for me, I'm gonna put this around C tier, actually, not B tier, definitely not S or A tier, C tier, because it's not a horrible movie by any account, but yeah, definitely it hurt Venom fans. Not as much as Venom Last Dance or Venom Let There Be Carnage would in the future, but yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm intentionally not including any Avengers films, team up films, so you're not going to see Captain America Civil War in here because you know, Spidey's just he's just a special guest in those films. So I'm keeping this strictly to Spider-Man solo outings, including Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse as well. So you'll see that in a little bit too. So that's where I'm ranking the Raimi trilogy at the moment. Got Spider-Man 1 S tier, Spider-Man 2 A tier, and Spider-Man 3 C tier. Right? Now, The Amazing Spider-Man. Let's talk about this. So the first Amazing Spider-Man, obviously, it had the novelty of it was rebooted pretty close to the Raimi trilogy. So Spider-Man 3 had pretty much only came out in 2009, I think. And then Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. They had the Lizard as the main villain. They were setting up like Osborn and Oscorp and like all this stuff. But they were trying to do a fresh take. I remember specifically they really emphasized his superhuman strength. You know, there was things like him dunking, breaking the backboard. There was things like him, throwing the football and then bending the goalpost and things like that. And that was always interesting. So for me, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a little bit more than I enjoyed Spider-Man 3, but I remember being such a Raimi, like, you know, a big fan of the Raimi films that I, I just had a lot of bias towards it. I felt like, we didn't need a reboot or anything like that. So that's how I felt at that time. But looking back, I'm going to put this around a B tier. I put it a little bit above Spider-Man 3, but it's not quite up to par with A or with Spider-Man 1 or 2. All right, that's just how I feel. I know that I'd be interested to hear how other people feel about Garfield's first outing as Spider-Man, but that's just how I feel. Also, I didn't like the suit. I wasn't a huge fan of the suit. I'm a bigger fan of the suit now, like ever since playing the Insomniac games, but not a big fan of the suit at the moment. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm gonna have to put Spider-Man. Actually, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This one is a hard one for me, but I'm gonna put it at B. I'm gonna put it at B tier alongside The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and it's because the pacing was a little bit weird. They explored plot threads that were not interesting. Now, the general consensus around Peter Parker's parents in these films, which, by the way, Peter Parker's mom was played by Miss Honey. If there's any Matilda fans watching at the moment, I always found that, I thought it was pretty interesting, but it turns out majority of people thought it was not interesting at all, and they didn't really care about, Richard and Mary Parker, or whatever his parents' names are. And of course, we want to know a little bit more about Ben Parker, May Parker. I don't know. I like the suit a lot more in this one than I did The Amazing Spider-Man, or TASM. I'm going to call it TASM because The Amazing Spider-Man is a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I put it above Spider-Man 3, Raimi's Spider-Man 3, because Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, man, just as a couple, as a on-screen muses to one another, their chemistry is just incredible, impeccable. And then that death scene by Gwen Stacy, like, it was genuinely emotional, and that's pretty wild considering it was only their second outing. But yeah, it was definitely emotional. Although I will say this is probably where I started to question, like, why does Spider-Man have to suffer so much, and started asking that question, because people forget that not only does Uncle Ben die in the first TASM, but Gwen Stacy's dad also dies in his arms in the first TASM too. And for me, I'm like, bro, so this guy's lost his Uncle Ben, he's lost his parents, and that's something that we're going to explore a little bit more. And he lost Gwen Stacy, right? Like, just back to back heartache. And we're supposed to believe, we're supposed to buy into the idea that someone can continue being Spider-Man and finding good in the world after that. And I suppose that is what sets Spider-Man apart, is that he can always dig a little deeper and find that humanity. But I don't know. For me, it took me out a little bit. So it's a step above Spider-Man 3. And I will say I enjoy it more than I enjoy the first TASM. So I'll put that there. But yeah, it's a B tier for me. The Andrew Garfield 2 films, TASM films, I'll put that at a B tier. So far, we've got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 at S tier. We've got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man at A. Andrew Garfield's TASM 1 and 2, B tier. Spider-Man 3 at C. Yes, free, river to the sea. Yeah. So, moving on from there, Spider-Man Homecoming. All right. This is Tom Holland's first solo outing as the web crawler. What do I remember from this film the most? Michael Keaton's performance. And the twist that Michael Keaton is the father of Liz Allen. I thought that was pretty well done. I did kind of see it coming. I remember feeling that in the theater. I saw that coming, but at the same time, I still feel like it was executed very well. It came fresh off the heels of Civil War. I remember the novelty of him being so young. So Tom Holland was cast when he was 18 years old, right? And that was cool. But yeah, we got to see just starting high school freshman Tom Holland playing Peter Parker, and that was pretty cool. I definitely remember the novelty of that. Now, in retrospect, I don't really feel like it was done. I don't know if it holds up, right? There's a lot of Iron Boy Jr. happening in this film, and a lot of people, had gripes about the fact that he was cleaning up a lot of Iron Man's mess and things like that. I do think that he has some pretty solid performances, especially when he's lifting the debris off of himself and he digs deep. I am Spider-Man. He lifts himself and escapes that situation. He plays off Michael Keaton very well. The sense of fear that he has in when he realizes who Liz's dad is quite unreal. So I don't want to be too harsh about this one. I definitely don't think it's S tier. So I'm going to go A tier. A tier. Yeah. Because it's a good movie. It's good. I don't want to let, time... You'll probably see this a fair bit as I continue on in this video, but I don't want to let the whole time passing and not really remembering it that well affect my judgment too much. But yeah, we'll go A tier for Homecoming. Now, Spider-Man Far From Home, actually no, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is next, right? I'll put this in D tier for now, but it's definitely not D tier. This is definitely either S or A. Or A or S, right? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did the impossible. It introduced a brand new Spider-Man to the masses. And look, Miles Morales had been around for quite some time at that point. But in 2018, I still remember getting a text from my Uncle Aaron being like, who's this? Or what is this about? And having to explain to him, it's Afro-Latino American Spider-Man, Miles Morales. He's different to Peter Parker. Some would say the ultimate Spider-Man, things like that. And just having that interaction with people made me slightly worried. But we did get a really cool teaser trailer that kind of told you all you needed to know about the character. He's got his Jordans on. He's got the black suit. He jumps off the building. He falls, spins a web, and then, starts swinging and stuff. And immediately everybody's like, oh, this is cool. And not just that, but the animation style too. And then when you get into theaters and you actually watch it for the first time, I remember going with some of my boys from school and it just blew our minds. And then over time, we realized exactly what this was. And it was genuinely, at the time, the greatest Spider-Man film ever to be put to theaters. So for me, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that's S tier. That's S tier for sure. And not only is S tier, I'm going to say it's probably better than Spider-Man 2. And that's tough. Spider-Man 2 for all time held the crown for the greatest Spider-Man adaptation of all time. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you got to understand, this is a different legacy to Peter Parker as we knew, to Spider-Man as we knew. And it didn't really damage that at all. I know people, when Miles Morales first arrived in comic books, everyone was like, man, I'll get to you in a second, Cephs. People were worried that Marvel was trying to, be PC and replace Peter Parker with a black Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man's black now. Spider-Man's black, and but Into the Spider-Verse didn't do that at all. They coexist, right? Anyway, so Into the Spider-Verse, I'm gonna put that S tier. I'm gonna put that ahead of Spider-Man 2, Raimi's Spider-Man 2. But yeah, two great films. So we got two S tier Spider-Man films, two A tier Spider-Man films, two B tier Spider-Man films, and a C tier Spider-Man film in Spider-Man 3. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna take a pause from this for a second, and because I've got a question from my also Seths. He's in the comments on TikTok, right? So run me down on what you think for Doomsday. I'm glad you asked. Cool. So, sorry if my voice is going at the moment, but I'm a bit sick. But Avengers Doomsday. I don't know. I am excited. I'm very excited. Because you got to real. It's every Avengers film has had some sort of spectacle, except for Avengers: Age of Ultron. Like Avengers: Age of Ultron had a hard road because it didn't have the spectacle of bringing all these solo heroes together for the first time, like the first Avengers film did. And then Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, like Infinity War had the spectacle of now you get the Guardians of the Galaxy, now you get all these brand new heroes that you've never seen interact with Iron Man and Cap and all these people, and they're all coming together for this first thing. And then Endgame has the spectacle of all these people died in the last film. How are we gonna get back to it, right? So that kept us on our heels for like a whole year. Now, Avengers Doomsday is interesting because, let's be honest, post Endgame has been very hit or miss. MCU hasn't been consistent in hits lately, right? Notable films throughout this period. We've had I think Wakanda Forever was a good film, although it's a bit divisive because some people feel like they should have recast Black Panther earlier instead of passing it on to Shuri, which I hear it, but at the same time, Chadwick Boseman for life. What else? There's also No Way Home. No Way Home was cool. When that came out. Thunderbolts was a flop, but it's super underrated. Everyone should have gone to the theaters, including myself. I still regret it. But yeah, so it's been quite a lot of flops at the box office. I will say that we're kind of on the way back, especially with Brand New Day. But now Doomsday probably has the biggest spectacle of all the Avengers films, and it's because of the fact they're bringing back classic X-Men they're bringing back James Marsden as Cyclops, and he's going to be in the actual comics accurate suit. Who else are they bringing back? They're bringing in the new Fantastic Four team. They're bringing in the new Avengers, Sam Wilson's Avengers, RDJ's coming back, Chris Evans coming back. All these people are coming back, and everyone's finally getting involved that never got to be involved in the beginning. But yeah, I just think I think the spectacle could either work in their favor or it won't work in their favor. With that being said, of course, I'm still going to show up, but I also understand why some people, given the recent track record, don't want to show up. And, you can't knock people for that. But another thing that I'm worried about is the fact that they did pivot to RDJ as Dr. Doom and because of like what went down with Jonathan Majors. Yeah, this is a pretty layered answer, I know, but I do feel like it's interesting that Jonathan Majors gets these accusations and then they fire him as Kang, right? When they had the Kang Dynasty planned, they had I think Secret Wars was always planned, but yeah, I feel like Jonathan Majors, when he first appeared in Loki season 1, great performance. Told you everything we needed to know about Kang, about this version of Kang. I feel like I still to this day want to see what he would have done in the end. I feel like they ruined his character in Quantumania. Season 2 of Loki didn't do much to give his character justice, except for when he was playing He Who Remains, that variant. So yeah, I still really feel like it's unfair that they didn't bring him back, especially when the case was, I believe the case was dropped or he was found innocent. But yeah, just seeing him shunned from Hollywood like that and fired, like, this is another problem that Marvel's having at the moment. I don't know if anyone else notices it, but they're being very unfair to black actors, man. And this dates all the way back to when Terrence Howard was fired from Iron Man 2 because he asked for more money or whatever. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. did a fantastic job as Tony Stark. But let's be real, like, they could have paid Terrence Howard more money. He deserved it at that point. He was the highest paid in the first film. Second film comes out, like, give him a bigger role, give him a bigger paycheck. But they didn't. They replaced him with Don Cheadle, which, still Don Cheadle, great performance as Rhodey over the years. What else has happened? Just recently, they fired Yahya Abdul-Mateen II from Wonder Man. They told everyone, they told the world Wonder Man season 2 was coming out, that they were going to do season 2 of Wonder Man. And then just recently, after the director of Spider-Man Brand New Day, who also created Wonder Man season 1, after that film comes out, Marvel decides that they're going to pull the plug on Wonder Man season 2. It's just a little bit weird, and they don't have the decency to tell Yahya to his face, like give him a call, an email, heads up beforehand. He had to find out through social media that Wonder Man season 2 was canceled, right? It's messed up. Hi, babe. My ladies in the comments. Yeah, it's messed up. Wonder Man season 2 gets canceled. That's another black actor done wrong by Marvel. And then also Mahershala Ali, who was cast as Blade. They announced Blade at San Diego Comic-Con like 8 years ago, bro. And then they just finally announced quietly that Blade was canceled. And then he comes out, speaks out. He says, you guys had me under contract for like 7 years. Did nothing with it. You guys make billions of dollars. You're a $1 billion corporation. You could have given me a film, but you chose not to. I'm off Blade now, right? That's at least 4 black actors who have been done completely wrong by Marvel. And the Jonathan Majors one is really, really hypocritical. For one, because we don't even know if he was actually guilty of the crimes that he was accused of, because they settled out of court or he was found innocent. RDJ has been accused of crimes that have actually transpired. I'm drawing blank, but there's a few white actors who've done some messed up things in their careers, but they can, find redemption or whatever. James Gunn was fired for tweets that he made a couple of years ago and then brought back to finish the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. And look, I love James Gunn. I think he deserved to, have that redemption. I love RDJ. I feel like he's done enough work and proven himself to the point where he deserves to be, paid the most, paid the highest salary. He deserves to come back for Doomsday. It's definitely earned. But, Jonathan Majors, there's one mistake. They don't have any tolerance for any of the black people that get into any legal trouble in the universe. It's pretty messed up. But yeah, you asked me about Avengers Doomsday, and Avengers Doomsday, I'm excited for it. But yeah, I have my reservations. It remains to be seen whether or not it's a good thing, whether it's a good film or not. But given how Spider-Man Brand New Day turned out, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Thanks for the questionals. But yeah. Babe, get off the live because you're distracting me. Anyway, next one. So let's take a look at where the rankings are now. So in S tier, we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at number 1, Spider-Man 2 with Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire at number 2, and then in A tier, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man Homecoming. B tier, we have both the Amazing Spider-Man films. Spider-Man 3 is in C tier, nothing in D tier. Next up on the agenda is Spider-Man Far From Home, which is the second film in Tom Holland's Homecoming trilogy. This one is a bit of a tough one because me personally, I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea. The most glaring plot hole for me is the fact that Spider-Man turns up in Washington, D.C. in the last one. Love you, babe. Spider-Man turns up in Washington, D.C. in the last one, right? He's based in New York. So everyone knows that he's a New York-based superhero. But then he goes to Washington, D.C. for one trip, comes back to New York. And then the next year, he goes to Europe. And there just so happens to be this Night Monkey Spider-Man type of superhero just pop up out of nowhere. And meanwhile, New York is still, things are still happening in New York, but Spider-Man's not around at that period. But we've got a Spider-Man in Europe right now. And then Spider-Man comes back to New York. Obviously, like, if it weren't for Mysterio, announcing to the public that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, they still would have figured out that it's Spider-Man. Do you understand what I mean? Like, there's a clear path. Like, you just follow it up. You go, Spider-Man was in this place at this time, at the same time that this class was in this place at this time. I wonder if one of those students that were in that class is potentially Spider-Man. They would have figured it out, right? I also didn't like the whole bait and switch of Mysterio. I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal did the best that he could with the job that he did. But also, this also set up a through line of examples where Nick Fury is completely incompetent, right? Because this guy not only gets tricked by Mysterio to be a multiversal, threat or whatever from a different universe, but then he goes on Secret Invasion, gets tricked by the Skrulls. Back in Captain Marvel, tricked by the Skrulls, tricked by the Kree, tricked by all of these people. How many times does Nick Fury have to get tricked before we realize Samuel L. Jackson is damn near 90 years old? Now, I love the character of Nick Fury, especially in the comic books and everything like that, the video games. He's a great figure. And I love the fact that they cast Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. I think that was perfect casting in 2012 or in 2008. But man, did they drop the ball with his story arc. Secret Invasion should have been heaps better. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I just don't think Spider-Man should have gone to Europe. For me, my Spider-Man is a New Yorker. I love seeing him be in New York. And they set up Homecoming to be all about how he's a neighborhood Spider-Man, right? So for me, it just felt like a big nothing burger of a movie. They had these fake elementals in there. Mysterio was kind of in there. But yeah, I'm gonna put Spider-Man Far From Home. I wouldn't say it was as bad as, actually, no, I would. Look, people might kill me for this, but I was tossing up between B and C. Some of you might have it in A, but let me just change the thing on there. I'm gonna put Spider-Man Far From Home in a C tier next to Spider-Man 3. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think about Spider-Man Far From Home, because maybe I just hate it. Maybe that's just me. But I'm gonna put it at a C tier. I'm gonna put it that's probably my dead last film for the for Spider-Man films. Now, next up on the agenda, Spider-Man No Way Home. Right? Now, this is a direct sequel to Far From Home. So Spider-Man's been outed. We get to see the fallout from that. We get to see him interact with Doctor Strange again after Endgame and everything. For me, this is a spectacle film. Like, this is one of the biggest spectacles. Like, this is my childhood Spider-Man coming together with my adulthood Spider-Man, Tom Holland. Like, it's dope on so many levels. In retrospect, there was so much in that film that I wanted more of and didn't get. But again, that's like, that's hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. At the time, I remember just being so so mind blown. You got to remember that it's not just Toby, it's not just Andrew Garfield. We also got J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson, and that was sick. But we also got Charlie Cox back in the MCU as Matt Murdock. And at the time, Hawkeye also was also on. Hawkeye was on. We also got the reveal that Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, was coming back. So these two things coincided to reveal that Daredevil was now back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Because Netflix canceled it in 2018, but now we get Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio. They're coming back, man. So that did a lot for me, because Daredevil, the Netflix series, was one of my favorite films, one of my favorite series on TV of all time. Not just superhero properties, but just TV. All-time TV. So for me, this has to go somewhere around S and A tier, right? I definitely like it more than I do Homecoming. I like it more than I like I like it more than I like the first Spider-Man. This is a tough one, but I'm gonna have to put this in S tier. It's definitely S tier, right? This would probably, at the moment, it's my third all time. So I've got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at number 1, Spider-Man 2, the Raimi trilogy at number 2, No Way Home at number 3. And again, this is at hindsight. If you would have asked me back in 22 when it came out, 21, I probably would have said it's my favorite Spider-Man film of all time. But again, like, I just feel like the movie, the reason why it's not number 1 for me is because I feel like it did a lot more tell than show, right? Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield get their cameos, and that's great. They talk a little bit about what they experienced in their universes, you know, so we get a little bit of closure there. Tobey mentions that, you know, him and MJ are working it out, and that's cool. He talks about the existential crisis that he went through. We saw that in Spider-Man 2. Andrew Garfield mentions that he, Andrew Garfield mentions that he stopped pulling his punches and things like that. And that's cool. I just wish they would have filmed some of that shit. You know what I mean? If they would have filmed that and then shown it, just give us a little bit to go off of what that actually means. What did you actually do? You know, let us see some of the villains that you fought. And then when they're having that cool discussion between them where, like, you know, Tom's like, I fought an alien in space. Toby's like, I fought an alien. And then Andrew Garfield makes that funny joke of like, oh, I fought a rhino, a man in a rhino suit. Like, yeah, that's funny. But it's also like, you know, you had an opportunity there to share some dialogue that actually shows that time moved. That's what I don't like about how they use the multiverse compared to the Spider-Verse films. The 2 Spider-Verse films, they actually show that things transpire in other universes when you're not there. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by that? Like in between Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, Miles grows. Miles gets taller. His voice gets deeper or whatever. Gwen experiences more things. Peter B. Parker has a child, May, and she is like a toddler, right? So we get completely new characterizations and off-screen shit happens, right? Into the Spider-Verse, it's like these characters who are visibly older were frozen in time and nothing happened between those films. So you're telling me that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Peter Parker, stopped pulling his punches in one scene, but then the last big villain that he faced was the last one that we saw in the film where it's Paul Giamatti in the Rhino costume? Like, you had an opportunity to be like, oh, well, actually, I faced 6 of my greatest foes. And then you can set up a potential spin-off for the Sinister Six, the one that Sony's been trying to do for all of these years. They've been trying to make a Sinister Six film for that, and they missed a very good backdoor pilot opportunity in No Way Home. So It's S tier. I'm actually talking myself into an A tier for this, but I'll leave it at S tier. No, actually, I won't. I'm gonna put that at A tier. I'm gonna say that I like that more than Raimi's first Spider-Man film, and more than Homecoming. But I'm gonna put that at A tier. And again, that's in retrospect. Let me know what you think about that. That's probably the most. That's probably gonna be one of the controversial ones, but I'll leave it there. The next film we have, Across the Spider-Verse. This is automatically A tier for me. I don't know if I like it more than Into the Spider-Verse, but Across the Spider-Verse just did so much more to set up the lore of Miles Morales. Like, it just expanded upon the idea. I just think the Spider-Verse films do the multiverse the best. They do it way better than they do in the MCU. You know, the MCU treats it like a fucking... Sorry, mind my language. They treat it like a cameo fest. You know what I mean? Like, everyone gets a cameo. That's cool. Like, you know, fan service, blah, blah, blah. That's all well and good. But you don't utilize the multiverse for what it could be. You know? What If was supposed to be a really good TV series on Disney Plus. They were supposed to do some really cool ideas with it, you know, explore some actual different realities. But then the writing just got lazy at a certain point. Season 2, it just got lazy, and they used it as an opportunity to, you know, I think that the art style was one thing because it locked them into these actors' characterizations, these specific actors' characterizations of these heroes and these characters. But you know, X-Men 97 proved that, you know, different art style, you can have a completely different take on these characters and it can still be compelling. Right? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse proves that as well. I think Miguel O'Hara was very interesting, having him set up as the villain. It ends on a really enticing cliffhanger. What else do I like about it? I like the idea of Spot, you know, who is considered a joke villain or something like that. Being actually menacing and somewhat sinister, clearly powerful. Yeah, I think that's a super incredible premise. The way that it picks up and connects to Into the Spider-Verse is really dope. Having Miles set up as this kind of anomaly, and then going to the Spider-Man 2099, where all the other multiversal Spider-Man are like congregating and everything like that. That was super cool. And then him being the only Miles Morales in that place, that was interesting. So I've wanted to see this one. I've wanted to see Beyond the Spider-Verse come out for years. Like, I don't know why it's getting delayed so much, but I hope they figure that out and get that out soon. Sorry. But yeah, I'll put Across the Spider-Verse at S tier, next to Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I just think it was dope. What's good, bro? How are you, Subbles? Yeah, so at the moment we got Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man 2 in S tier. It goes 1, 2, 3. So that's cool. Now, the one that I started this video for, again, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is probably my favorite Spider-Man film of all time. I'm not going to lie. I can't lie. I fucking loved this movie, man. And I've only seen it the one time. I only seen it last Friday. But man, like, let me start with the practical effects and the stunt work. Now, I knew when Destin Daniel Cretton signed on to direct this film, because of his work in Shang-Chi and Wonder Man, I knew that he was going to bring something completely different. And I've also been making jokes because when we saw some behind-the-scenes set photos of them doing practical wire work for the web swinging throughout New York City, chasing the tank and things like that, and all the New Yorkers getting around it, man, people were so hyped about Tom Holland. They were like, bro, this guy's actually Spider-Man in real life. You know what I mean? Frantic was good, bro. How are you? That was so dope. but I knew it then. I knew that Destin Daniel Cretton was going to make us hate John Watts for what we got in the Homecoming series. Because people don't realize the Homecoming trilogy of Spider-Man, directed by John Watts, they opted for way more CGI. The suit was completely CGI, right? We didn't get a real fabric suit. In Brand New Day, we actually get a fabric physical suit. You can see the imperfections. You can see the way that it bunches up around the neck. You can see Tom Holland's ears. It just looks real. It looks practical, but it also looks great. And there's so much attention to detail as well. The Brand New Day suit is based on a combination of Tom's suit, Toby's suit, and Andrew's suit all compiled into the one. And it just looks dope. It looks mad, right? And this has the hard task of continuing on from No Way Home and being a solo film, not including the multiverse, but and somehow standing alone and being a bigger film than any of the Homecoming trilogy combined, right? And somehow it's surpassed, I think it's the second quickest billion-dollar film release in theaters of all time, behind Endgame or Infinity War or whatever. It broke the record for the highest weekend opening ever. And it's also considered the highest rated movie in MCU history. And one of the highest, I think it tied with Spider-Man 2 for the highest ranking of Spider-Man films of all time. So yeah, there's a bunch of different evidence-based things that I could tell you that show that this is probably the greatest Spider-Man film that we've ever gotten. What else can I say without spoiling it? Again, going back to the stunt work, I didn't even get into it. Bro, the stunt work is so peak. I'm telling you, like, the stunt work, if you've ever played Insomniac Spider-Man 1 or 2 on the PlayStation, they literally took the movements from that game and put them into this movie. Tom Holland is actually moving different in this film. And it's mad. It's sick. At one point, I'm trying not to spoil it for you guys. If you haven't seen the movie, go and see it. But at one point, this guy does an actual ground strike where he leaps all the way up into the air, webs onto the ground, pulls himself down as hard as possible to stomp that mother. I'm telling you, Spider-Man Brand New Day is moving different. And I said it before. This guy, Destin Daniel Cretton, wants us to hate John Watts for what we got in the Homecoming trilogy. But I'm not saying that to shit on the Homecoming trilogy. The Homecoming trilogy was great for what we got. And you got to realize in retrospect, those three films, we basically got a trilogy origin story, right? People have been saying that for a couple of years now. But now we're getting adult Peter. We're getting a brand new Spider-Man who's done the whole mentorship thing. He's learned from Iron Man. He's learned from Doctor Strange. He's learned from the Avengers. But now it's Spider-Man time. Spidey's front and center. All right. So that's my ranking. That's my list for Spider-Man films. All right. We'll start from the bottom. At C tier, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. Again, if some people might feel different about that film, some of you might like it. Me personally, that's probably my least favorite Spider-Man film. Next to Spider-Man 3, the Raimi trilogy, where you get Venom and Sandman and all that. It's just too much going on in that film. So that's C tier Spider-Man. B tier Spider-Man, we get the TASM 1 and 2, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I liked it. There was parts of it that I liked. The pacing was weird. The plot lines that they went with, weird. But yeah, I put Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 at B tier. It goes, the Amazing Spider-Man 1 is after the Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I enjoyed the Amazing Spider-Man 2 more. A tier. Spider-Man Homecoming is last in A tier. Some great performances in there, but again, Iron Man Jr. or Iron Boy, whatever you want to call him, It was good. It was a good film. Same with Spider-Man 1. Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. It's a campy film because Sam Raimi is a campy director. But given the circumstances, one of the greatest origin stories of all time, classic childhood, nostalgia, all of that, right? Tobey Maguire, goated as Spider-Man. That's my second in A tier. Spider-Man No Way Home, first in A tier because of the spectacle of it, bringing 3 generations of Spider-Man together for this big, epic blockbuster. You got Doctor Strange, you got all these villains, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Lizard, Electro. I think there was another one. I think there was a couple more. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. S tier. This is where it gets interesting. Spider-Man 2 at the bottom of S tier. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and finally Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's my ranking for the Spider-Man films. And I encourage everybody, if you haven't already seen it, go out and watch Spider-Man Brand New Day. Me personally, I wish I could go right now and go watch it again because I loved it that much. I can't wait for it to come to streaming and all of that. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna end this on that note. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have a different ranking system for this, I'm gonna put it in the comments as well. Remember, get that off my feed, bro. Sorry, someone just added some dumb shit to my TikTok live. What was I gonna say? So, if you're wondering why I'm going live on TikTok right now, is because I'm trying to get into game streaming. Streaming some Fortnite, streaming some Minecraft, and all that kind of stuff. But I can't at the moment because I haven't been live on TikTok for a while. So I thought I'd do this as a way to, just start building up that live streak. There's some requirements that I've got to meet. So I'm trying to go live on TikTok more often. So you'll be seeing more of my face on TikTok. I'm sorry. That is just is what it is. I've also got my YouTube channel going, Geekin Out, GeekinOut. If you see my face, you've made it to the right channel, right? So Geekin Out is on YouTube. I'm also on Twitch. I've been streaming on Twitch since last night. Did a mini stream last week. Trying to be more consistent on there, but yeah, I'm trying to do some more geek stuff where I talk about things like Spider-Man, things like the MCU, things like WWE, and then of course on my TikTok, Nomad, I'm talking about a bunch of different things. So this is kind of like my spam page where I do a bunch of different stuff, ranging from this morning I was talking about an experience I had with this kid who wasn't wearing his helmet on his bike. So, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. I've got a Geekin Out Instagram as well. There's a lot of things going on at the moment. I'm trying to be more organized about it, but hey, we got to begin somewhere. So that's how it's going right now. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like all of this stuff, even just, jump on my page and troll me, whatever you want to do. But I've been Nomad. I've been Damon. Appreciate you guys. Much love. I'm going to end it there. And this is Geeking Out. Take care. And love your family. Yeah.